It's actually harder to force yourself to eat in the off season than it is to fight the cravings during a contest prep. I look in the mirror at 240 pounds at 5'9", and I see a stick. That's all I see. But I also felt like that when I was 300 pounds too. No matter how big you get, it just doesn't feel big to you. I didn't quite see a life outside of bodybuilding until I actually retired. My life consisted of going to the gym, eating, and maybe once a week we'd go to Applebee's. And I got my pro card, and I realized I got some traction behind me now. People are reaching out to me for endorsements. I'm like, maybe you can make a living in this. And I think I got up to 8,500 to 8,700 calories, somewhere in that range. I mean, I probably had 9,000 on certain days.
You do that daily?
Daily. When you have a doctor look you in the face and say, do you have any family? And you say yes. And he goes, I suggest you call them because you may not be here tomorrow. Like, that is like the ultimate just slap across the face. Like, whoa, dude, you need to wake up, and you need to wake up right now because there may not be a tomorrow. All right, so my name is Justin Compton, and I am a former or retired IFBB Pro. I did my last competition in 2016. I think it was October, the Europa Show.
Your career was so exciting from the fans' perspective because you really rose through the ranks pretty quick when you got into the pro circuit. Is it hard to say retired right now?
It feels a little weird, but it's been 9 years now at this point almost. So it's starting to sink into me. Like the first couple of years that didn't feel right to say retired. I didn't feel retired either. Like I was still pushing significant amount of weight. There was a period where I did get a lot smaller, and then I came back up, and now I've kind of leveled out here at around 235, 240 range. So I think probably after 3 to 4 years, I just kind of realized like, this actually is the life you want to live now. So that's when I kind of accepted it and moved on. I said, okay, there's no comeback.
So, and when you say accepted, you're saying accepted the fact that you're not this like superhuman.
Yeah, it's really hard to give that up because that's all I ever knew my whole life. Like I've been a bodybuilder since I was like 14 to 15 years old. I was a freshman in high school. And I was always the big guy. No matter where I was at, I was always known as like, oh, that's the big guy. Or that's Justin over there. Like people knew me for that. So to go from, I don't know, some people may argue this point. I think I was probably 4th, 5th, maybe 6th biggest guy in the circuit. So no matter where I went, people knew exactly who I was. They maybe didn't know my name, but like they know like that's the really big guy there. So to go to that, to be in what I would call, I don't want to say average bodybuilder, but like just being a normal sized bodybuilder, it was a big like shock to me. So like I look in the mirror at 240 pounds at 5'9", and I see a stick. That's all I see. But I also felt like that when I was 300 pounds too. No matter how big you get, it just doesn't feel big to you. So like when I look in the mirror, I'm like, shit, man, you really don't even look like you work out anymore. But I realized that's not the case. You can't be 240 pounds and 5'9" and be skinny.
It's interesting you say that. I think most of the people who are gravitating to bodybuilding always relate to that fact that they're never going to really see their true self. And you being at the top, being one of the top pro bodybuilders, still having image challenges at the time, not being satisfied with this or that is surreal because you were 300 pounds.
Yeah.
What did it feel like being so huge?
There's no feeling to it. Like, I know a lot of people may think that, but like you don't feel any different at 200 versus 300, or at least I didn't anyways. I didn't look in the mirror and I didn't see 300 pounds. When I would walk around carrying on with my daily life, chores, activities, I didn't feel 300 pounds. Like, in other words, a lot of these guys get out of breath really easy. I was a guy who I didn't get out of breath all the time. Like, I could walk a flight of stairs, I could be fine. I wasn't drenched in sweat. So for me, being 300 pounds was not that difficult of a task as far as like maneuvering and like getting around with. Yeah, when you go on an airplane, that's when you realize you're 300 pounds, when you got the middle seat on the airplane. That sucks, especially when there's like two other large men sitting beside you and you just got to ride the airplane leaning forward because you can't sit back because your shoulders is on top of them. That's where complications come in with being that size. But for the most part, when you're growing at a steady pace, which I felt like mine was rather steady. I know a lot of people, we'll get into that in a minute. Like, I know a lot of people probably said, oh, he came out of nowhere. I'm like, well, I did, but I didn't. Like, you guys just didn't know me previously, but I was still pushing and rising at that point. So considering my gains was very steady, like every year I'm gaining like 10 pounds of muscle. When I would get to my peak weight, it would feel I'm a little tired. But then like the following year, say my peak weight that year was 250. And then the following year, I would get to 260, 265. When I'm back at 250, cutting for the next show, 250 felt like I was light, like I was skinny now all of a sudden. So for me, I would say 300 may have drugged me down a little bit, but anything 285 or less just felt normal at that point.
So a lot of people will look at your career and the contest history, and they you can look back at like your earlier shows, like you always were you had a good shape and structure for bodybuilding. You definitely like seemed like it was something that your body was favors to adapt to the lifestyle. Would you agree with that?
Yes, very much. And there's a story, like when I first got into bodybuilding, like oftentimes it's not just shape and structure, it's how your body will grow for one. Let's start with that part of the genetics factor. I remember I weighed maybe 130 pounds, to be fair, as a freshman in high school. That was because I didn't understand back then that you need to go fasted in the morning in your underwear or naked, whatever. I was stepping on a scale with like jeans and like work boots and a hoodie probably. And I'm like 133, 135 with clothes on. So I was probably under 130 pounds. And I basically learned how to work out on a Bowflex and like a home gym that like has like the flat incline. It's got a leg curl, a leg extension, one of the typical like starter workout benches. And from April, my freshman year of high school, that's when I started, to the beginning of my sophomore year, I went from my starting weight, like 130-ish, to like 165. And that was literally not knowing how to work out. I thought I did. I probably thought I was probably a legend in my own mind at that time because I was a 15-year-old kid. But I truly didn't know how to work out, not compared to the knowledge I have today. So not knowing how to work out, not knowing how to eat, no supplements, no creatine, absolutely nothing. I put on like 35 pounds in a very short time frame. I think being able to put on muscle fast is ultimately like that's a big factor that you see. If you look at a lot of top pro bodybuilders, they all grew really, really quickly. Like it didn't take 25 years, and it don't take 25 years. If you're going to be a top level pro, your genetics is going to determine that pretty quickly, I feel like, in the beginning phases. Like you're going to see that when you first get into the sport. If you're a guy who spent 10 years and you've gained 10 pounds of muscle, keep doing what you're doing. Do what you love, but you're going to have to accept the fact that you're not going to be Mr. Olympia at that point.
What was the point that you realized maybe I can make a living being a bodybuilder?
Okay, so there's 2 points there. I'm going to break that down. There was a point where I was like, maybe I could actually be a competitive bodybuilder because I didn't believe in myself. The confidence was not there at all. I actually thought when people would compliment me in school, I didn't understand why. I really didn't. Like, I just wore like white t-shirts or normal polos or whatever, and people would I'd have people come up and like grab me and touch me. I'm like, what are you doing? Like I'm nothing special. I didn't see that. So it actually took me to do my first competition. And even then, I still had some confidence issues. I didn't want to really do that first show, to be completely fair, but I didn't want to do it. And the reason I didn't want to do it is because I was scared, just like most people. Like, you're going to walk on stage in your trunks in front of like 5,000 people. And yes, back then it was normal to have, it was the Northern Kentucky Bodybuilding Show. And that one probably had 4,000 to 5,000 people in the audience. It was a very large show. Nowadays, you're lucky if you see 500 people in the audience. But I was also insecure in the fact that I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I belonged there. Again, this goes back to the body dysmorphia, not understanding what you actually have. I went to all the bodybuilding shows. I was obsessed. Like, I was beyond obsessed with it. I went to all the shows, and I remember my high school best friend, he was 2 years younger than me. He's 2.5 years. He's 2 years behind me in school. And he told me he was going to do the Northerns. And I was like, dude, that's a horrible idea. That's the biggest show in the state. And he just told me, he's like, well, I'm doing it. I don't care what you think. I was like, yeah, I'll do it too. I'll just do it with you. We'll just have fun. Well, that fun was only fun for a couple of weeks. And then me and him started getting kind of competitive with each other. We'd see each other in the gym and stuff, and, kind of like eyeing each other up and whatnot. I didn't care about beating anyone else at one point. I just wanted to beat him. So we get to the show and there's 15 teenagers. And that's not normal. Usually shows nowadays in 2025, there's no teenagers. It just doesn't exist. But there was 15 teenagers, and I'm backstage and I'm like, oh, what did I get myself into? I'm looking around at all the other guys. I'm like, you don't belong here. Like, you legit do not belong here. And everybody else is happy and, seem calm and chill. And I'm the only one that's like, look like a deer in headlights. So I was like, okay, you made it. Your family's here. Everyone supported you. They got your back. Go out there and make an ass of yourself and take last place. It's cool, whatever. So they didn't do call outs with 15. They literally took a lineup of 15 guys and they just moved us around in that lineup. So come finals that night, I remember my mom had like the old, it was like when digital cameras first became a thing. And I'm looking through these, I'm trying to zoom in. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I did. Like, these kids thought everybody looks good. I don't know. So they bring 10 of us up and they're like, you 10 are just going to free pose because you didn't make top 5. And I'm like, please don't say number 5. Don't say number 5. I'm like, okay, good. I made top 5. Holy shit. I'm doing great. And then top 5 does the routines. Then it comes time for the awards, like take 5th 2, take 4th 2, take 3rd 2. And when they said take 2nd, I was ready to take 2nd because the kid who got 2nd place, he had a better physique than me. I'm not afraid to say that. I beat him because I could pose. He had a better physique, but he literally could not display it at all. And he was so genetically gifted and talented, I don't think he trained for that bodybuilding show. It was like a week out. He's like, yeah, I'll just enter that show. No big deal. He's a high school football player. I think he was a Golden Glove champion as well. So like, he was naturally athletic, naturally lean. So for him, that was just fun. Like, I'll hop in a bodybuilding show. No big deal. And I actually worked my ass off to get to that point. So when I beat him, I had like a moment where I was like, oh shit. It was one of my classes, the biggest show around. I didn't know how to take that. I went on and I ended up doing like 6 or 7 shows as a teenager. And I never lost a teenage division. And it got to the point where it was actually fun for me. It was competitive for me. And I'd never been good at anything in my life. So I found something I was good at, and I continued to pursue that. And then when I turned 20, my objective was to take a little bit of time off because I'm like, you're no longer a teenager. You're not competing against teenagers. You're competing against grown men that's been doing this longer than you've been alive at this point. So you can take a little bit of time off. I had something called Osgood Slaughter. It flared up on me when I was 20 years old, which is not normal at 20 years old. Usually that's something kids deal with from like 9 to like maybe 15, 16 range. I got to the point I couldn't train legs. I'm not gonna go on stage and just make a mockery of myself having a great upper body and no lower body. So I kind of gave my dream up. I couldn't, I saw like specialists and stuff and they're like, oh yeah, just wear this brace 2 or 3 weeks, you'll be fine. 2 years go by, now I'm fine. That's how long I went and I couldn't train legs. I just remember going to the gym one day and I was completely out of element. My diet was way off. I wasn't eating like a real bodybuilder. I was getting calories down, a lot of junk calories. just to maintain. I was like 230, 235 pounds. And it was all up top too. So like I was still a pretty big guy. But whenever I went to the gym that day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to train legs, just see if it works. I was able to squat, leg press, and do leg extensions, all pain-free. And this was my senior year of college. So I was like, I got one run left. I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try the men's open. So I was 18 weeks away from the Mr. Kentucky. I ended up deciding, I was like, you don't have any legs. Turns out my legs grew into the show, and I think I still showed up lower body dominant after not training them for 2 years. So they grew their way right into the show, which worked out beautifully for me. I was not expecting it. My expectations were to finish third, because at that time, that would make you nationally qualified. And I ended up winning the whole show. I ended up winning the novice and the open overall out of a lot of competitors. I think we had over 150 men, if I'm not mistaken, total, which you don't see that in today's time. Again, shows were bigger back then. So that was kind of when my journey actually took off. When I won that show, I had to make a decision. Do you want to be a bodybuilder, or are you going to be a blue collar worker? What's it going to be? Because you have an engineering degree. I still got that, obviously. I went into electronics, and I was like, you're going to make money at this career. No matter what, no matter where you go in the US or probably even international, you're going to get a job. No problem. I was like, but do you really want to do that, or do you want to do what you actually love? Never thought I'd make a career out of it. So I ended up taking a little bit of time. I don't want to say time to myself, because I still worked like different odd jobs. Like in the springtime, I was a tax professional. Again, numbers, that was my thing. So I worked with taxes in the spring that year. And then I ended up taking kind of a dinky job that didn't pay anything. I'm sure I probably let some people down, the fact that I have a college degree and I'm taking this little crap job. But I did it because I thought maybe there was hope that I could do something in bodybuilding. I came to junior nationals as one of the smaller heavyweights. And I ended up getting second at that show. And once again, I'm backstage and I was like, dude, you don't belong here. Like, yeah, you finally stepped on stage as a national level competitor. Check that off your list. Go apply to engineering when you get home, because you're about to get embarrassed the moment that you walk on that stage. But like, I didn't expect to place the top 5. Not only did I didn't expect to place the top 5, I got second. Like, that was almost unreal to me. That like, I just beat these guys. Like, these guys are bigger than me. Like, but I didn't understand. I had shape and I had conditioning, and that's why I excelled. And though the conditioning is something you can control, but your shape, you're given that or you're not given that. That's your genetics, that's your DNA. I had small hips, small waist, small midsection, broad shoulders, flaring quads. I had the basics covered genetically. I don't want to say I had an ego, but I had a mission at that point. I was like, you're gonna try for your pro card. Well, I got slaughtered at my first. This was the first time I was ever not in the top 5. First time ever placing poorly, and the first time ever just truly being disappointed in a show. It's like, you just gave a whole year of your life, a year as an engineer that you could have been doing, and you gave this for a 13th place finish. Like, what are you doing with yourself? So at that point, I went home, I basically brainstormed. I ended up having to have a surgery on my nose because I had my septum was broken. Been broken since I was a kid, I just never got it fixed. But when you're 250 pounds and you only have one nostril to breathe out of, it's time to get that fixed now. So I had that surgery pretty shortly afterwards. That actually cured my sleep apnea. I started feeling better. I started functioning better. I said, and I was preparing to be a loan officer. Again, numbers, but the thing with a loan officer is it actually pays good money. And I specifically chose that job because, again, I'm a numbers guy, but also I can make my own schedule. I can get my meals in when I'm ready. I can train when I want. It's not like I'm working 60 hours a week. So it's like, you're going to give it one more shot. You're going to go one more shot at nationals. And I kind of felt like I was making a dumb decision. Like I had a little bit of a pipe dream going on. I ended up, with me and Fackery got back together. I started working with him again, and he pushed me harder that prep than he ever pushed me in my life. And he kept reassuring me the whole prep, like, dude, no one's going to touch you. Like, we got this in the bag. We're 7 weeks out and no one's even getting close to this. And I'm like, yeah, man, you're my coach. You're supposed to tell me Like, you're supposed to make me feel good. But I didn't even believe it coming from my own coach. I get to the show, I think they had like 8 or 9 people in the first call out, and they shuffled us around. Like, truly, they shuffled us around to the point I didn't know who was winning what. I had no clue where I was going to fall. And apparently my colleagues that I was there with, they said they knew I was winning, but I didn't know that. I am not going to write this off and make any assumptions until I have that trophy in my hands. And sure enough, the next day I did win, and I got my pro card, and I realized I got some traction behind me now. Like, people are wanting to be coached by me. Like, people are reaching out to me for endorsements. And like, maybe you can make a living in this. That's kind of when I decided that, this is for me. Like, I was born to do this.
What's your whole outlook on nutrition with bodybuilding?
So I think the biggest thing with people when it comes to nutrition is consistency. And I think consistency is probably where most people fail at with bodybuilding, because they don't understand that it is a full-time hobby, job, career, whatever it is to you. If you want to be good at it, it's got to be full-time. And I think that's nutrition is the biggest one. Getting guys in the gym, not a problem. Getting guys to take protein powder, creatine, not a problem. Getting guys to take super supplements, not a problem. Getting guys and girls to stay on a nutrition plan all year round, excluding, maybe it's holidays, outside of that, being with your family, getting them to follow that nutrition plan consistently is probably the hardest aspect to overcome in bodybuilding.
What was your diet like, let's say, off season, peak weight, really pushing food, pushing everything?
I think this was when I had pretty good body composition, surprisingly, at this weight, and it's probably would surprise a lot of people. But I was 295 at the end of 2015. And I think I got up to 8,500 to 8,700 calories, somewhere in that range. I mean, I probably had 9,000 on certain days.
You eat that daily?
Daily, every day. Yeah, this was not a high day. This was every day. Now, I want to explain 2 things that kind of went into that. I love to train. I would go in sometimes and do 40, 50 working sets on my training. And then I finally got to the point where I enjoy doing 2-a-days. But I'm not going to recommend most people do 2-a-days because I had the perfect lifestyle. I could eat, sleep, and work out. I was paid to eat, sleep, and work out. So my recovery is going to be significantly different than a guy who has to work construction. My calories were very high. And I think like for example, like my first meal, I had to get a little creative with certain things. I think I would do like 80 grams of oats. It was a ridiculous amount, like 60 grams of peanut butter. I would throw like 30, 40 grams of like coconut oil in there, 3 or 4 eggs and 2 bagels. That was a meal. That was one meal. And like the next meal, I may have 150 to 180 grams of carbs, not dry weight, but like 180 carbs from pasta. And then I'm throwing beef in that on top of that, and I'm throwing avocado with it. So these are not light foods. This is not sugary foods. This is not easy to eat. So like I'm putting all this down, and there was days that I'm just like, oh, I don't want to eat, but I gotta eat. Like I had those days, and then there was days that I'm just like ravenous wanting to eat. Very rarely was I wanting to eat more than 8,000 calories, but there was a few of those days too. I didn't struggle as hard as some of the guys do with appetite. That was something I guess I was blessed with, to be able to have a good appetite. So some people have a great metabolism and a crappy appetite. That's a horrible combination. Has a horrible combination for bodybuilding. Because if you have a metabolism that burns through the food, but you don't have the appetite to keep up with it, that's going to be a problem. Thankfully, I was blessed to have both. You know, I can eat with the best. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a professional eater because I'm far from that, but I could definitely handle 6 to 8 to 10,000 calories if I needed to. It's actually harder to force yourself to eat in the off season than it is to fight the cravings during a contest prep.
I mean, we don't have to go too far into it, but I would like to hear your outlook on PEDs. And okay. Basically, it's like we don't talk about it, at least when you were competing. No one talked about it. Everyone did it.
It was hush-hush then.
Well, let's just kind of hear your thoughts on that in general.
Well, yeah, when I was competing, like the PED topic was just hush-hush. You don't do it unless like it if you're a coach, then yes, you're going to have to talk about that type of thing. And that was also something that steered me away from coaching mainstream while I was actively competing. One, I'm hyper focused on myself. And two, it was like, I didn't want someone to be able to screenshot, my email address and associate that with XYZ cycle. That hits the internet. And like now my name is associated with PEDs, even though you're a professional bodybuilder. And even though it's kind of somewhat assumed, I just couldn't do that because it doesn't look good. And I'll just say the powers to be, if you want to say that. It's like, you don't really want your Mr. Olympia to have his name written all over this. So you kind of just stayed quiet. Like, you never had top guys openly talk about it. Back in, I think probably Boston Lloyd was the guy who actually brought PEDs public. Like, he's the one that just publicly said, this is what I'm doing. And Boston was right in some things and wrong in others, because he did have a lot of call outs that was not legit on some of the things that he would say. Some of the stuff he said was 100% spot on, and some people needed to be called out. But that being said, I don't think it's wrong to publicly talk about PEDs, but I think the biggest issue with it is people undermine everything else when it comes to bodybuilding, and they just associate, large muscle with PEDs. Like, when I read comments and stuff, I'm to the point I do not engage. If it's my own page, I engage. But I don't engage with other people on other pages, because, like, say you have a 165-pound movie star who has abs. If you're 165 pounds, you should not, and you're taking drugs, you're either not doing it right or it's all fake. Something's wrong with that picture. Like, I was that big at 18, 19 natural. Like, there's no reason why you need to be taking drugs to look like that. But that's the society I feel like that we're in now, because the PED topic is just so open. Everyone assumes that if you have even a remote amount of muscle on your physique, it's got to be drugs, and it's trend too, right? Because all the people that don't know is like trend, test and trend. And they think, oh, I can take drugs. No, you can't. You can't take drugs and look like that. You absolutely cannot. There is so much more into it. And that's something that kind of irks at me. Doesn't anymore. It used to. Because now I'm just like, you are the people that, like, you're always going to look like you're going to look, and you're blaming drugs or genetics or whatever for your own shortcomings. But those are the ones, back to the consistency, you're not consistently following diet, you're not consistently training, but yet someone's better than you because they took PEDs, right? So, like, that's the thing is, like, PEDs, the topic and the dosages is so spread across the board that, like, you have this guy saying 500 milligrams is enough, and this guy saying 10,000 milligrams, and that takes people who don't know, and they're sitting here right in the middle trying to decipher what's the truth, what's reality, what should I do, what should I not do. And if you're one of those people, I feel like that's where you need to hire a coach with experience, but also look at his track record. Has he killed anyone? Has there been anyone die under him? Those are the things that you guys need to be taking into consideration when you're, like, coach shopping. When you start seeing huge numbers, run, just go away. Like, if you're using, it's hard for me to put a number on. I mean, I can talk about my own stuff. I can't really relate to other people. I do think that everyone responds differently. So what 500 milligrams does to this guy, it may not do the same to this guy. They may have, like, the same shape, same work ethic, same diet, but they may respond differently. So I don't think there is a one size fits all, but I think there's a window. Like, if you're on the other end, on the high end of this, you should definitely rethink what you're doing, because one, if you're using 4 grams a test, you need to play golf. You need to do something else. Bodybuilding is not for you. Like, if you can't get the results you're looking for, I did mine on 1,000 to 1,200 tests. Just speaking with other pros, when you start getting to 1,000 to 1,500, we all tend to say the same thing. And this is why, like, if anyone with half a brain would think for a second, not everyone's lying to you when they say it doesn't take this much to do this. Like, when you have guys who have never coached anyone and never done it themselves, they're the ones that's telling you that it takes superficial amounts. But the guys who has coached people and the guys who has done it themselves, they're telling you something else. Why would all of us be lying to you on that? So yes, there's PEDs involved in the sport, but I feel like there's no, like, course. You can't just take a course to educate yourself on it. This is why I think getting with someone who has hands-on experience is going to be the best thing for you. But also, just because they got hands-on experience don't mean it's the best experience. So look at someone who has a track record. I think that's going to be the most important thing to try to tell people when it comes to PEDs in general. Otherwise, you may be the guy who's taken 2 grams on your first cycle, because I've seen that, unfortunately. It's like, and if you're that guy, man, I hate to say it, but your career may even be over before it ever began. You know, like, where are you going to go? You're going to go to 3, 4, 5, 6, 10? What are you going to do? Like, where's your ceiling at?
Did you ever find yourself like experimenting and trying protocols that like put you to a point of discomfort levels?
Yes and no. So prior to me ever becoming a national level competitor, the typical cycle would be 500-600 milligrams of test, 400 milligrams of DECA, maybe 25 milligrams of D-ball. Standard bread and butter. And I don't think that's anything unrealistic. And I was winning local level overalls, but that's the dosages that I was doing, winning that overall. Then whenever I got with Thackeray, I'll admit I was a little skeptical, because he basically took my test, pushed it to 1,000, pushed the DECA or the EQ up to 600, and that was like, and then like a 50 milligram oral in the off season. So these are new numbers to me. Oh, and obviously GH was coming into play, or so I thought, because I had counterfeit GH. Didn't find that out till later, but I was growing so rapidly I didn't question it. I was growing on the gear, so it was like I didn't know that the GH was even fake until we got lab work done to prove it. That's a whole different fiasco, which made me upset because I spent a whole lot of money on that, which not a big deal. Like I said, it probably worked out good, because by taking the GH out, I probably actually used the proper stepping stones. But he did introduce me to some stuff that I'd never tried. I'd never done halotesting before. I don't think I'd ever taken master on at that point in my life. I did take Winstraw for the local show that I won. But yeah, he introduced me to a few new compounds and higher dosages than what I was used to. So I was a little skeptical on it. And then when I see online, I see what other people's doing, I talk to other competitors, I'm like, okay, this seems to be kind of the normal. Gram a test, 500 to 600 of this, 300 tren, 300 masteron. This seems to be the normal, but that was not my normal prior to that. So like, I was very sketchy on when you put all this together and you add up the totals, you're getting like 2.5, 2.7 grams. I'm like, dude, this, like, I'm a little afraid of this. So when I got to that point, I was not really okay going higher than that. And thankfully for me, I didn't have to go higher than that. Like, I was able to keep those dosages throughout my career. The only thing different that was changing, and I don't want to say it's why I was evolving, because I truly think that I was going to evolve regardless, but like, I did get a hold of real GH. And the only reason I know I got a hold of the real GH is because the first time I got it, my hands hurt so bad. Like, I was like, that's what people were talking about with the hand pain. So I dealt with that. And I started at 4, 6, 8, and I got up to 10. Depending on what I was using, generics was 10, Serostems was 8 to 9. No, it was 9 on the Seros because they were 18 IU bottles. So I was doing a bottle every other day. So that kind of gives you guys a gist of what I took as a pro, and take that for what you want. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not recommending you do it. I'm just being honest and letting you guys know what a top Olympian cycle looked like. And if you're a rookie and you're seeing numbers 3 times that much, you should probably get away from that person, whoever's telling you that.
Do you feel like that time, that mass era, the mid 2000s, there's a lot of excess? Looking back now with your knowledge, do you think you needed that?
For me, yes, I actually do. I don't think I could have done it on lower calories. I really don't. Like I said, I didn't have errors because I made a mistake. I had errors because of outside factors that I couldn't control. So let's just say the airport was my biggest enemy. The airport screwed me so many times. But there was times I'd spend 2 or 3 days because that's how long it took me to get home. Like, they cancel 2 or 3 flights, sometimes that's 1,000 people. You got to find flights to get those people back to where they got to go. So I may be in a hotel and I'm not eating like I am at home. I try my best. Usually I'm under eating, because when I was traveling, it was always off season. I had a rule: when I'm in prep, don't ask me to go anywhere. Don't call me. Don't text me. I don't want to be bothered when I'm in prep. So like when I'm off season, going to these events and going to seminars, guest posings and stuff like that, when things would be out of my control and I missed a meal, I'd be down 3 pounds the next day. Like it would my weight would fall that fast that like just the simple missing of a meal. So I know if my calories were like say they were 2,000 calories less every day, I was not going to be as big as I was, for sure.
That's crazy in one day.
Yeah, it was literally like my weight would fluctuate every day. Like if I wasn't straight consistent across the board, my body would show it. The mirror would show it, the camera would show it, and the scale would show it, all three. And then obviously that twists your head a little too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so with those rapid changes, and you mentioned this earlier when we were talking that you only have a few clients that change like that as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't that kind of hard for you to have any sort of normalcy in your life?
Yes, and it's funny you would say that because I didn't have any normalcy in my life at all. Like I thought I did at the time because that was normal for me. Like I didn't know that there was a life outside of eat, sleep, and work out. Because remember, I told you I'd done this since I was 14, 15 years old. I didn't party when I was in college. I didn't party when I was in high school. I don't really like the taste of alcohol, so there's that. But like, I never got into that type of stuff, but not because I didn't like it. I didn't do it because I had this vision that I was going to be the best bodybuilder that I could be. So, that being said, the bodybuilding lifestyle was normal to me. And I feel like I didn't date much like when I was in college, like when I was younger. So like I didn't have anybody to say, hey Justin, like this shit's not normal. What you're doing, like living like a monk in your house, this is not what 20-year-old people do. I didn't know. So like I just thought I'm living like everybody else, right? So as far as like being normal and having balance, I had zero. I was full throttle all the time. And I was so hell-bent that anything and everything, if it got in my way, I'd have to ask myself, is this going to be productive to your goals? If the answer is no, get rid of it. And that's friends, family, girlfriend, doesn't matter. If you're not productive to my goal, out the door, bye. No questions asked, just gone. And that was my philosophy. I didn't understand that there was a life outside of that. So like, my life consisted of going to the gym, eating, and maybe once a week we'd go to Applebee's. That was my cheat meal. I'd have a burger and fries and I'm back on plan tomorrow. So I didn't quite see a life outside of bodybuilding until I actually retired. But like, say I'm gonna go to a strange place I've never visited. Now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna Google, I'm gonna research, I'm gonna find like destinations, hotspots, like tourist sites. I'm gonna be looking and just thinking like, these are memories you're gonna make. But when I was competing, it was like, all right, I need 30 meals together of this. I'm going to go to the hotel and I'm just going to wait for the promoter to call me and I'm going to guest pose. I'm going to go back to my room. Then I'm going to wait for a guy to take me to get on the plane. I'm going to go home. I never explored. I never done anything like that. And I never ventured out. Like I just think looking back, like as much as you had the opportunity to travel the world, like, man, you could have done and seen so many things, but you were so closed-minded that you didn't do it. So like, I do have that as a regret. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't have a lot of regrets because I look at it as a learning lesson. Now I'm able to see those things and now I do those things. Like, you did bodybuilding, you succeeded the best that you could. Now it's time to succeed at other avenues in life.
So kind of going into your retirement, I know some people were kind of confused as to why it happened. In regards to just like, oh, well, he just seems like he was doing so well. Why is he stopping competing? What was can you kind of go into what happened?
So this is going to be a list of, I don't want to say tragedies, but like a list of problems. And it all kind of happened at once. Because leading up to that moment, like in 2017, it was like early January 2017, like first week, something like that. Leading up to that moment, I had never had adversity in my life at all. Like whether it be financial adversity, like I never was rich and I'm not rich now, but I've never struggled to eat. I've had like a minor ache and pain here and there, like the elbow kind of hurts, but never struggled to train. I was able to get things done. I never struggled with bodybuilding, mentally or physically, until that moment, until I did. And it was such a shock to me. So to kind of get into this, I would say over the course of 6 months, I dealt with like 5 or 6 major things that went down, and I'm going to touch on all of those. And at that point, I will say if you would have met me in the middle of 2017, you would have saw a much different version than what you expected or what you deserve to see of me, because you would have probably saw a guy who probably wasn't very mentally stable, just to be completely fair about it. So I ended up getting an infection. And I don't think anybody has to question what that infection, how you get it. We all, as bodybuilders, I think I can just leave that one out there. So I got an infection. I didn't understand how bad it was at the time. And that infection over a course of time, and it was a very short period of time as well, went septic. And if you guys know anything about sepsis, it can be fatal. It can kill you. So when I started feeling the way I was feeling, I knew something was off, but I was like, oh, you got the flu, you were just traveling, you were out of the country. I was like, oh, you're good. After like 3 days, I'm like, I can't eat. Everything, like you feel weak. And I remember going to the gym and I was like, you can't take off. Like you've already had 2 days off. You cannot take another day off. So like, you're gonna go to the gym and you're just gonna train arms just to say you were there. And like my normal was to do like strict curls with like say 60, 65 pound dumbbells. I'm doing 30s. And it's heavy. I'm like, something is way off. So to cut a lot, just to kind of cut down on the details of that, I figured out what was wrong. I didn't figure it out on my own. I actually had a doctor friend of mine tell me. He figured out through the labs, went to the hospital, spent about 2 weeks there. I think the first week was actually like a week in ICU because I had been septic for like 4 days. Like when you're septic for that long, like if you get lucky and you go in on like day 1, maybe you'll get some like Rocephin and you'll go home. But when you've been in there for like 4 days and it's starting to attack everything inside your body, like I just remember a whole team coming in, rushing, like, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like I'd never dealt with anything like this before. Like I just thought, oh, I'm gonna go in, they're gonna give me a bag of fluids and I'll be home tomorrow. That was what I thought. Wrong. So I deal with all that. That was about a 2-week fiasco. And prior to that, it hadn't hit me hard yet, but I actually had an injury in this left shoulder. It was a week out from the Ferrigno, but it was like kind of tolerable. I said, you work around it. It got significantly worse. It started hitting me in a way, because I'm left-handed, I couldn't make a right turn with my car. I physically couldn't drive. So like I'm trying to drive like this shit to try to turn. So like, that was all, I'd say that was end of January. So I'm dealing with this septic infection. I'm on like 10 different medications, trying to get everything back in line. I had just done labs like probably 2.5 months prior, and they looked like the standard bodybuilder labs. I mean, were they perfect? No, but they literally looked like a bodybuilder's labs. And this set of labs I was looking at did not look good from all that. So I'm like, okay, you got a lot of shit that you got to work on here. You're going to have to get this done. Bodybuilding has to take a back seat. You have no choice. And to force me to take a back seat on that was hard. Like, because it's all I knew for like the past 14 years of my life. I didn't know anything else. Like, how am I going to not work out? How am I not going to do this? Then I deal with the shoulder. That happens, all that was probably within the same month. Continues to get worse and worse and worse. One thing I regret is not just doing that surgery immediately. I ended up getting the surgery in 2023, I think, or 2022. So like 7 years. And I sat there and dealt with like pain in my shoulder for 7 years. Because I just kept thinking like it would come and go, it would come and go. And finally I was like, I got to do this. But that happened. And then I was not getting ready for the Arnold. I was getting ready to run the booth at the Arnold in 2017. So if you go back and you look at those photos, most of those photos were me in a hoodie. And there's a reason why I was in this hoodie. Again, this is the attitude I had, like the mentality of like, you gotta train, you gotta train, you gotta do this. And even though I was in pain from this shoulder already, it was shoulder day. So I was like, I don't wanna go to Powerhouse. If I go to Powerhouse, I'm just gonna get like mobbed by people, which I don't get mad at people, you know, that's what they're there. They pay to see bodybuilders. So I was like, you know what, screw it. Let's use the hotel gym. Let's just use cables. Like we can train shoulders with cables. And I remember doing front raises specifically, lightweight, nothing heavy, nothing crazy. And I grabbed like, there's no handle. I just grabbed the ball on the cable and I'm going to do front raises. I remember feeling like a little pinch, like in the bicep area. And I'm like, no big deal. Kept on going, no pain, no nothing. Moved on, and then the next morning I wake up and my friend was there, in the room, and he was implying something else. He's like, dude, what's up with your arm? I was like, what do you mean what's up with my arm? I don't get it. And he goes, something's a little funky going on with that right arm. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? And then I went to look in the mirror and I was like, holy shit, like something, like I was swollen from pretty much the side delt all the way down to my wrist. Like this, it was so big of a difference that we had a tape measure. This arm was 23.5 cold. This arm was 25. And they were symmetrical prior to this. So I'm holding 1.5 inches of fluid on my arm from this injury. And I'm like, I got thinking, I was like, well, it don't hurt to move it. Like literally everything is fine. I was like, triceps fine, like shoulders fine, biceps fine. Like what, I was like, I don't know what's happening. I was like, just throw a hoodie on. I was like, get through the weekend, we'll handle it. As I got home on Monday morning, the swelling had pretty much went down, but you couldn't see like any lines. Like there was not one vein at all on that arm. Swelling kind of went down. I gave it about 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot on trying to train. I'm still in significant pain from this shoulder, and that pain is still continuing to escalate because I'm a dummy and didn't want to let off the gas. I just wanted to continue pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I ended up, see, which one happened first? Pneumonia. That's what happened next. So my immune system is screwed from this septic that I had in January. And then I just got back from the Arnold, which is probably where I caught pneumonia at to begin with. You're around a lot of people. And I remember the first thing happened, but it was a weird pneumonia. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this or not, but like I didn't have that like super congestion. Like it was like a dry pneumonia, if that makes sense. So like when I would take a deep breath, I'm like, oh boy, chest pain, hospital now. Because we had just started, that was probably the time we started seeing bodybuilders dying, like frequently dying. And I was like, chest pain, straight to the ER. You've already met your deductible, so what do you got to lose, right? So that's the first thing they do. They done a chest x-ray and they done EKG. Like, your heart's good. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a relief. So why am I in pain? And they said, you have pneumonia. And I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad compared to the alternative, obviously. So I'm there for like 4 or 5 days, deal with that. And of course, you're eating like 1,500 calories a day in the hospital. I'm alone too, by the way. Like, my parents had not moved to Florida yet. Me and my ex had split up. I'm living alone by myself. All this is like really hard for me to take in what's happening. Like, you're in a hospital by yourself, nobody's here. So I'm like, okay, we deal with that. We get out. Like 2 weeks later, I ended up having a gallbladder attack. So like I have this stabbing, like just felt like someone was hitting me with a knife, like right here in the upper right quadrant. So I'm like, I was like, I can't take it. Like the pain was like, it just felt like Mike Tyson was punching me in the gut. I was like, back to the ER again. So they knew based on like, because it was sensitive to the actual touch. So they pretty much knew what it was. So they ran the testing and stuff on me and they said, oh yeah, it's your gallbladder. We need to have that taken out. And I was like, no, we're not. And they looked at me like I was crazy for saying no. And the guy told me, he said, you have like a lot of sludge. He's like, you have a problem. And I was like, yeah, let me deal with it. And he's like, what do you mean let you deal with it? And he kind of made a couple of comments like, you think you're smarter than me? And I'm like, actually, I do. If you want me to be fair, actually, I do. And this kind of goes back to a protocol that I had learned from Jansen whenever me and him were friends. He actually had a gallbladder attack as well, and he gave me his protocol that he used. We use it for something different. We use it for digestion, and it works great for that too. But it was designed to basically help you keep your gallbladder. So if you've done the research on this, or you can go back and Google this if anyone's interested, but if you look when laparoscopic surgeries became available for gallbladder, that year that it became FDA approved, the surgeries went up by like 400%. Because when you tell somebody you're going to cut them from like here to here, that doesn't sound appealing. But when you say, I'm going to put 4 holes in you and you're going to be back to work on Monday morning, most people's like, yeah, go ahead and take it out. I was not taking it out because I'm thinking out loud, like, I'm still a bodybuilder. I'm still going to be having like fat in my diet. You remove my gallbladder, this is not good. So I ended up having to argue with them tooth and nail to get them to discharge me from the hospital because I was not having that surgery. Turns out I did my protocol, and guess what? To this day, I still got my gallbladder. So I'm dealing with that, and then finally the shoulder just got unbearable. Couldn't train. Could not physically train anymore. I was like, okay, now you can't train. I'm depressed. Shoulders all out. Start getting smaller, faster, really, really fast. So when I had stopped training completely, when I say I stopped training, I was not going to the gym at all. And I also wasn't eating at all, like 1,500 calories a day, if that. Like, I don't know if you've ever dealt with depression or anybody out there watching this has. It goes one of two ways. People either eat because they're depressed or they don't eat because they're depressed. And I was the guy who don't eat, can't eat, no appetite, nothing, just fries me. So I was like, I'm comfortable just eating 1,500 calories a day. I'm just like watching myself. And the thing is, when I would look into the mirror, I'd see myself shrinking. That just made the depression more. Like it's like you're just continually digging your own hole, just keep digging it deeper and deeper and deeper. And like when me and that girl split, I just was like, I was my last straw. I did not know how to cope. I did not know how to deal with it. I'm living alone in a city that I can't stand. And I just kind of went off the rails mentally at that point. And my sponsors, obviously. This is not me hating in the least because I understand business. If anybody understands it, I get it. So like you hire me to endorse your product, and to endorse your product, I'm supposed to look like XYZ. I don't look like XYZ anymore. So obviously my sponsors, they packed their bags and they left. And I'm like, okay, now you can't train. You're completely alone and you don't have income coming in. That's not a good mental state for someone to be in. Not to mention, the only thing I ever knew was bodybuilding. It's like my hobby, my love, my passion, everything was like just either put on hold or it was gone forever. I'm like, holy shit. Like I was good just sitting in the room, sitting in my bed for 22 or 24 hours a day. I was fine with that. I had well enough money stashed away that I wasn't worried about the money. Like my bank accounts, I was good. Everything's caught up. My house is paid for. Cars were paid for. I wasn't worried about like going bankrupt or anything like that. But I basically just sat there for like 3 to 6 months and I don't think I did anything. I just literally sat around. And finally, probably around 2018, I said, you're going to pull your head out of your ass. Like I had to come to reality. I was like, what are you going to do, man? Are you going to lay here in your bed and watch TV, watch series, soap operas? What the hell are you going to do with your life? You're going to do something or not? So I went to the orthopedic. He basically gave me a Band-Aid for my shoulder. He put like a cortisone shot in it, and that's not a fix. It's a joke. But he got me to the point, okay, I can move my arm again. I'm pain-free. I can do this, Started working out again. And at that point, I was like, to do this, to not do this. What do you do? Just from working out and eating again, I think I went from like 215 to like 265 quick. And that was with no gear. That was my TRT because I actually had a legal prescription at that time. Like that was nothing. I did not blast anything. I didn't take anything. I just simply started eating and training again. That's how quickly my body responded to it. Now I didn't look like the 265-pound version of me on stage, but I wasn't fat by any means. I mean, at my stage weight probably would have been 230, 235. So I mean, I was still in decent shape. But I had to make a decision, like, do you want to do this or do you not want to do this? Because you just saw how quickly the rug can just get ripped right out from underneath of you. You put 15 years of your life into it to watch it all disappear in 3 to 4 months. Do you want to do this again? Is it worth it to you? But during that time, I actually had a chance to get out and see the world. I saw things like going on vacations, taking trips, stuff that I'd never done before. Just finally, for once, I was spontaneous in my life. And I was like, man, this is kind of fun, like going to the mountains, go and see different areas of Canada, like Mexico. I went out in the country multiple times. Like it was just fun. I was seeing life from a different perspective. And obviously it comes down to the money thing. When it comes to coaching, I never really thought that I was going to be a coach. It was never anything I predicted. I never said, yeah, I'm going to do this later in life. I started getting DMs and requests and I'm like, you know what? You've helped, at that point, I'd probably worked with like 50 people over the course of like 10 years. which is not a lot over the course of 10 years. I was like, you did really well with it. I was like, all your people succeeded. I was like, why don't you try this? Just try it out. Maybe you like it, because I was playing with stocks at the time. Again, it all comes back to being numbers and charts and graphs. Like, I was good at that. And I was actually making money on the stock market. But when 2020 happened, that stock market, all those charts and stuff that everybody knew, when COVID happened, like, you're used to recognizing certain patterns. Those patterns don't apply anymore. So making money on the stock market was way too risky for me. And then just so happens, I'm getting a lot of clients and I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. Like, I'm getting people that, the worst thing about being a coach is dealing with people who won't listen to you. It's like, it's not about the money at that point. It's really not. Like, I genuinely want to see these people succeed. And if I can't make you follow a plan, then I don't know what to tell you. Right? So 2020 and on, I have been full-time coaching, and I don't think I made a bad decision. I wouldn't change that at all for anything. And during those last 5 years, I've just been venturing out to just doing different things, seeing different things. To a lot of people, like, say you take a guy who's done like 3 years in combat, like in war, he'd be like, wow, good job, Justin, how pathetic. Because he's obviously seen things that I will never see in my life. But everything is about perspective. So for me, that was a lot for me to overcome in such a short period of time that has caused me to go plumb off the rails. But actually, it kind of spun it around into a positive. You know, I see things differently and I see life differently. And I value life much more now as well. You know, when you have a doctor look you in the face and say, do you have any family? And you say yes. And he goes, I suggest you call them because you may not be here tomorrow. Like, that is like the ultimate just slap across the face. Like, whoa, dude, you need to wake up, and you need to wake up right now because there may not be a tomorrow. I started valuing life from a whole different perspective.